Hey guys, Dan, Joel, and Joel here.
Double Joel.
Double Joel all the way. We're going to be talking about a couple folk films that we all love, folk films that may not have had as much opinions on it, and we just want to share our opinions on it and maybe get some more people to watch them. So we'll start with Joel over here on the left.
All right, so one I want to talk about is fairly recent, and that's Zaid Aftab's movie, The Printer and the Boy. And this just came out, I think, a month ago.
Yeah.
And it's just this really great quarantine movie that he made largely alone. I think some of his family might have helped, but it's about a guy who's just down on his luck. He got dumped. He's like he's like doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, and then he gets a talking printer. And it's kind of like it's kind of the no budget like answer to Her, with some very keen focus on isolation and pursuing your passions in the face of discouragement. And it's just like a really beautiful film. It has some really great long shots where he and this printer are talking, and it got me genuinely emotional. He did a great job both like directing and cinematography wise, but he also did a great job acting, and it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, and I saw the movie as well, and I thought it was really great. I just liked the whimsical nature of a talking printer. I think it could be done in a way that just doesn't work, but I think that Zayd just gets a really fun vibe with it, and then there's a very dramatic and more serious tone that he kind of clashes in a good way. And I think that sometimes people are afraid to like get a little weird with the
Emotional or
tone.
weird.
Yeah, and I think that he allowed it to do that, and I think that it makes the film better for that reason.
Yeah.
So for me, I watched a film called High Definition, I think about a month or two ago by Marc Antonio Rios. I think that's how I say his name. And it's a really simple movie with a simple premise, which is two main characters are working in a DVD store, and we're just watching them closing up the DVD store. And there's no more bigger goal, bigger objective, but we're just listening to their conversations as they're kind of putting away like the DVDs. And there's something really almost hypnotic about the conversations that are in this film. It just, everything, it almost feels like, I don't know, it's just this beautiful symphony of them just both talking, and the camera work is kind of chaotic. It's almost the opposite of a lot of folk films, which are very static and like on a tripod, but we're following this like very shaky cam around, and I just loved all the conversations. It felt like I was there, and I felt like, oh man, I'm just like one of the people that's closing up this DVD store. And I don't know, I really liked it, and I would love, I don't know if Antonio Rios wants to do another one like this, but I think like these characters maybe could go in a different direction and do more with them, like whether they're the same characters or different characters. I think that those actors were just doing such a good job that I really liked the movie. And it's one of those movies that it's not incredibly like moving or funny, but it's really personal and real. And I think that's what's cool, is that like it just feels like you're with real and honest people, and I just love that about that film, and so that's why I'd recommend it.
Didn't you always want to have? Wasn't it like one of your dreams to work at a DVD store?
Yeah, so that it was just one of those things where
Yeah.
like I got to like, I feel like vicariously live through
Got to live
these
out your
characters.
sick fantasies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that it just you buy the fact that there are like real phone calls that they're having, and I'm pretty sure that they're real, where like they're on the phone talking to real clients, and it just, I don't know. There's something about like knowing that there's a genuineness to it that just makes it really heightened for me. So
And so the mundane sort of aspect of it sort of also adds to the realistic.
yeah,
Sort of like this is probably what they go through on like a daily basis.
yeah,
My pick is a movie I watched a while back actually.
yeah.
It's a independent feature called Phantom of the Woods by Open Sign Productions or Entertainment. I don't know exactly which one they go by like now, but Phantom of the Woods is it's like a horror film. It's obviously on a budget, but of this very I think it's like on like a construction site, and then sort of this phantom sort of is lurking in the woods, and no one knows what's going on. And so there's like the inciting incident of these construction workers that sort of just are trying to get to chop these woods down, and then they sort of release this evil that's in the woods. And then you sort of have another sort of storyline where there's sort of these teenagers, sort of these awkward teenagers are sort of figuring out what's going on in their lives, and then they sort of are unfortunately where this evil presence lurks and goes to. And it's the presence obviously becomes more known and more known. And then you have the third sort of story, which is like this cop trying to figure out what's going on. And so you have these three all converging stories that all center around this phantom who's sort of terrorizing this town. And I don't know, I think what I like about it is how those three interconnected stories, you could sort of go back and there's different parts of the story that weave together a whole narrative of all the riffraff and what this evil presence is making an impact on this town. So I liked it. I'd say the star performance is the sheriff. I think he does a fantastic role, and helps sort of give the town some character and make some sort of statements on it. So that's the film I'd say that I like the most, that I've seen from the sort of the folk filmmaking so far. But I really enjoyed it.
Cool. Both of those are on my watch list, and I got to get around to them. I have a big watch list. But next, I want to recommend The Last Day of Childhood by Mridul Chibber. And Mridul is actually a young filmmaker. I think he first reached out to me almost 2 years ago, and we did an interview on his channel, on Movie Productions.
I've seen that one. It's
good. And this is like, I think he was 16 at the time, and it was a great talk. And now he made his first feature, and it's this kind of experimental documentary about turning 18 and like what that means, and like maybe overthinking what that means, or like being disappointed by like what happens when nothing happens, or what happens when you want a big change and it doesn't come. Yeah. And that's what I really felt throughout the film. I think the first half has this really chaotic experimental energy that is just like, I hate to bring up age too much, because like I don't like invalidating people because they make movies when they're young, but like to make something of that like personal intimacy and like that experimentation when he was like 17, 18, that's just crazy. Like he's steps ahead of most people his age as far as like conceptualizing like meaningful ways to present a story. And I strongly recommend it. It's a really like good documentary. It's pretty short, so you can watch it pretty easily. So check that out. It's on his channel, Unmovied Productions.
Yeah, and I can second, it's a really, really unique watch. I think that he has a very cool editing style throughout that film that I think just amplifies the weird experimentations that he does, and it just I'm excited to see what he does going forward, and I think that it's a film that everyone should check out in the folk filmmaking movement. For me, I guess the final one that'll kind of wrap this video up, I have a film called Pacific Angels by Douglas Reese, which is a film I saw a while ago. And it's kind of a hard movie to pin down. It's kind of a mixture of like this realist film and then also these sci-fi concepts. Basically, it follows this guy and he's trying to do a school project. He's in school and he gets into kind of an argument with this girl that he's sort of paired with about how he wants to keep, she wants to focus about all these big, important political issues. And he wants to focus about this weird disappearance of like people from this lake. And it's clear that this is like some weird conspiracy. And then we find out that his brother is like really, really sick and believes all these conspiracies, and that's why he wants to kind of dig into this further. And there's really great performances from the two main leads of the film, which is the two brothers. They're so understated like to the point where like you're like, is this even really acting? And then there's a part where at the very end of the film, like the acting completely shifts. Everyone starts screaming and yelling at each other, and they're getting really upset. And I just think that the way the film is done, it's just really powerful, and that would be my takeaway from it. Is it's just a very powerful film, and they use a lot of footage from the past of their parents. That's like real footage, clearly, and it's just this really unique experimental ride, and it's all shot on an iPhone. It still looks amazing. Like I don't really know how they did it with just an iPhone, but they just got these really great wide vista shots, and then even some closer, more personal shots, and everything looks really well framed and well lit. And I think Douglas Reese, he's got a ton of films. He's like released like 30 feature films or something like that, and not all of them are hits for me, but that one specifically I think is just one of the best folk films I've ever seen, and I really, really would love if everyone would go check that out. I think it's probably one of the more underrated films in the playlist. So, any final closing thoughts, guys, about just folk filmmaking or any other films?
Make a movie. Make a movie. That's my thoughts. Just go out. You can do it nowadays. You could just grab a phone, anything, make a movie. Doesn't have to be related to any other movie. No, it doesn't have to be a folk film. It doesn't have to be anything like that. Just make a movie. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment, basically. Just go out and make a film, and allow yourself to just get out there and be as creative as possible. You don't really need to limit yourself, and if you have an idea for something that's outside of the mainstream that you see, I think a lot of the folk filmmakers are starting to get outside of that mainstream box and starting putting together ideas that are pretty unique and out there. I think that allowing yourself to get outside of what you would normally do is always a good thing. So hopefully these suggestions were helpful, and check out the films, leave them some comments. I think that would be something that would help them all out, and they probably would have really appreciated it. So thanks for checking out the video, and subscribe and have a good day.